welcome to Musings, episode number 348. Scott must be on a phone call. He'll probably be joining us very shortly here. Taking care of business. I haven't heard from him, so yep, nothing on the phone. Just the time of day. So there he is. He's popping in eventually. And he's live on stage now. Hi. What's going on, Scott?
Not much. Just I hate. Of course, you're getting ready for your morning routine here to get everything going. Then calls come in.
That's what I figured. As soon as our intro was done, I said, Scott must be on a phone call.
Yep. We have. I'll just go into the ad read real quick. Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. You know the pitch. But we have 2 listings coming up here. We just got we're working on the paperwork and pictures. We're doing all the pre-work that for the marketing we're going to be doing. Mm-hmm. And both houses are going live. They've decided, both independent families, not connected at all, but both decided they wanted to go live in not this weekend, but next weekend. So just working on the pre-work. You can do a lot more when you have a little bit more time for the advertising. Whereas sometimes people want things now, and so you got to jump through hoops. But it's going good.
Oh, good. So it makes sense not this weekend, considering it is Easter this weekend, Good Friday.
Yes. Yep. So if you need a realtor, give us a call, 586-232-5144. Jill and I are here for you.
Excellent.
All your questions.
And we're also sponsored by Bardstone Publishing here, which is our publishing imprint from Scott and I, as well as Kevin. Got a lot of cool stuff there. In fact, I noticed that we now have this one here. We have a store. Bardstone Publishing Store. Scott must have put this up and didn't tell me.
Oh, yeah. I'm still in progress, but it's not fully uploaded yet. But I'm getting all the individual pieces uploaded there, and through a site called Bonanza. I've purchased things. I've purchased things through them before. I really like them. What's nice about them is different platforms have different payment methods. A lot of them have a combination of fees they take out from your purchase, along with monthly fees and things like that. This one, it's a flat, low fee per deal, a percentage. So very predictable on what you're paying out. So.
Nice. You got some of the comics up there. You got some of the pins. Got original sketches, some graded comics. So there's a nice little mix of stuff to check out. And I'm sure Scott will be adding more stuff. There's like the books on here, the hardcover novel, softcover novel for Frankenstein that he did the illustrations for, as well as the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They do tie into the Crimson Shadows. So a lot of cool stuff. That's kind of
neat. So I've just been. It takes time. My hope is, one of the things I'm hoping with this is when I do my Kickstarters, instead of uploading every single item as an add-on, maybe there's a way to integrate this. So it's like, now that you've done this, go here to buy everything else you want. Plus my fee will be much less to pay out through here than I do with Kickstarter.
Right.
So I think it'll save a lot of time in future Kickstarters instead of adding a million add-ons for every single time to have one spot I can send them to.
Yeah.
So we're getting there.
Like I said, you can find us right here at bardstone.com.
Bardstone.com.
Yep.
And then also, well, since you brought it up, I want to talk to you and Kevin, because I believe each of you have your own online stores also.
I currently do not have a store,
okay.
But I keep getting asked, and if I do, I need to set a new one up, but it will not have anything but books and related materials to our publishing.
Yeah. So I'd be able to include the links on Bardstone for yours, and I think Kevin's setting one up too. Yeah. So have the different links so people can find our different products through there.
Yep. And as we've been telling people the last few years, we will not be selling the fan art that we have at shows online. That's an show exclusives.
Show exclusive.
Yeah.
I don't even have fan art anymore.
Everything I have is current stuff. I'll still have some here and there just because it just attracts attention. But it's very limited.
Yeah. I do think I'm going to put together an art book with all, like, maybe a collection of my top fan art for the different things that I've done over the years, just to have a one collection, like my sketch, maybe a book for my sketch card art, a book for my helmet series, and other things. So I would like to do that at some point, just a collection of everything instead of bringing 8 tons of prints.
Well, considering that the consensus for a lot of people is, well, I just want to have more wall space. I love the artwork. I don't know what to do with it. Well, I keep telling people, buy prints, put them into the portfolio books. Well, just buy an art book, then put it on the shelf.
And if I do prints anymore, actually, I think Kevin just did this where ordering the prints as a comic book size, so we can just bag and board them and carry them that way. Because a lot of people, space is an issue for a lot of people.
And these will fit nicely in your comic boxes if you like having art, but you don't want to put it up.
Right, it'll store nicely. So there's that, and trends are always changing. I find it interesting over the years with Comic-Cons too. When I started in 2010, a very common way of doing original art was people would carry these nice sketchbooks around, and they would commission you at the show, and you would draw it, and you could look at all the other artists who were part of it. And I mean, some of these books, thousands of dollars were invested in the art in them, and they were so gorgeous. And then that kind of evolved away from that into sketch cards started becoming popular, and that was all the rage for a while. Then it evolved to sketch covers, and so it seems like it's a moving target all the time. And same with prints. 11x17s were all the rage for a while. Then mini prints were the rage, and then it kind of bounced around.
Yeah, I've done a mix of everything between card size prints to 5x7s. And then of course, 11x14, 11x17s. I've done a mix of those too. But yeah, it's the problem is last several years prior to it's been several years. It's not just anything new. More and more people can say, I just don't have wall space. I just don't have wall space. I think that's become the excuse. Like we're trying to force them to buy something. Oh no, I just don't have wall space. I can't buy that. I don't care if you can buy it or not. If you express an interest, I'm going to talk to you about it. If you don't express interest, I'm not going to talk to you about it. But as I can tell people, great. Do you read comics? I have a bunch.
Well, and then what I do is when someone says I don't have wall space, I pull out my realtor card and say, well, I can help you get more.
Yeah. Which at that time they go, I'm broke, I can't move.
That another excuse. And so that's the new excuse. The previous excuse that was always used is, well, I got finished going around. I'll come back though, and then they would never come back.
I've actually called people out. I looked and said, no, I'm gonna look at everything, but I promise I'm gonna come back and buy. I said, don't promise me you're gonna come back because I know you're lying. And people, what? I'm not lying. No, trust me, it's okay. Just tell me thanks and move on. Don't have to give me any excuses or promises that you're not gonna keep, things like that. It's just a waste of your time and my time. I mean, it's things like that. Yeah. But nice thing is, we've got some great titles throughout the Bardstone and then my Boomtown Press thing. So there's a lot of comics involved. But yeah, it is what it is. I'm switching over to those comic prints I've been talking about for a few years, just trying to get through the stack of prints I had. In fact, Motor City will be probably the last show I take my 11x17s to, and I'm gonna throw them on the table in a box, and it's gonna be a blowout price. Just take them and get rid of them, and I'm done. And then it's going to be anything I take to any other future shows will be those comic size metal prints and regular prints, and it'll be what I be.
Yeah. The hard part, not to turn this whole thing into a Comic-Con discussion, but the hard part with doing fan art is the change in the culture as far as viewing habits too. Streaming, I think, killed fan art in that it used to be something would become hot and people would watch it and we would draw artwork of it and it would be very popular for a whole season. So you could go through the whole year and show after show after show, that print would do very well. But now people binge a show, 2 weeks later, the show's forgotten already. And so by the time you draw it, go to a show, you might have one show where it does well, but by the time you get to the next show, people have moved on from it. Yeah. So it's a very different culture because fan art, the best way to think about fan art, and it has its place, and I was a fan artist for many years, but it's more like the candy in the checkout aisle. It's the immediate satisfaction. It's not nourishing to you, but in the moment you like it. And so fan art is very impulse buys.
Yes.
Whereas books like we're doing now, this is the nourishment. This is the longer thing. But so it's a harder sell, but the people who buy it have more satisfaction in the long run.
So, I think so. And that's the fans I see. I mean, I get some that like the art will come back every time, but I get the fans with the comics and that at least will stop in and see what's new comic wise at every show they see me at. So,
yep. Yeah, so it's just different. It's evolving.
The big thing on our side is we all had to make a decision years ago. Do we want to continue to do fan art and have to try to fight the trends? What's popular today? And that's what you see a lot of. I was like, oh, well, they dropped this brand new show and show X just hit. So now I have to have fan art next week at the Comic-Con of something of that X. So they're rushing to draw something up, rushing to get it printed.
Yeah,
take it to the shows.
It's a hamster wheel.
Yeah,
you're constantly chasing the next show.
Yeah, and that's the problem with the fan art was I ran into was trying to keep up with it. It's like, screw it. I mean, I've literally probably done a few hundred pieces over the years, and there was a time I took probably 100 different images at one time to a show. It just got to be too much, and so in fact, a lot of people look at my stuff and people go, "Oh wow, I have a lot more classic stuff," and really it's not that old, but it's like my Winnie the Pooh's the bestseller I have. It's the classic one, and that's because it's something that just transcends the years. But then people will say, "Oh, Invader Zim Gur." I mean, it's not even really on TV anymore, but a lot of people know what it is, and it's bounced around the streamings a little bit. But it's anywhere from kids to adults because there's a lot of adults that bought the DVDs to show their kids and things like that. And then I have some of the classic, superheroes and comic book guys, things like that. And then I got things that are so obscure that most kids don't know, but the older people know, and those are things I did just because I liked them, but. But to try to keep up with trends, it sucks. I'd rather, as I tell people, I'm not doing any new fan art. I'd rather just work on books.
Yeah. Well, and the payoff was better prior because, like I said, you would invest that time and energy. You'd have to watch the show, understand the show as a fan to create artwork that the fan would want. Mm-hmm. Then you create the artwork. But you would have maybe a solid 10 to 20 shows you knew that print would do well at. So you would make your money back and then some over the course of many shows.
Yeah.
Whereas now, like I said, you do that work and pour it out, get it printed, show up to the show. You're lucky if one show, it's hot for one show, and then the next Comic-Con you go to, they're already, well, what about the next show? What about the new release that just came out this week?
Yeah.
It's like, well, geez.
And it's literally like that. I mean, I've seen stuff where stuff dropped on a Tuesday. I'm at a show on a Friday, and people are asking for it already. Well, do you have anything based on? I'm like, no, it just came out.
Right. Yeah. They think it's instant. And it takes time.
Yeah. Like I have like $10,000, in equipment in my house just to print stuff up, just to take the shows,
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing too.
That's right. If you're like Terry though, then you just bring the printer and you print it on the spot.
Well, and that's Terry's business model and he doesn't, but Terry, a lot of times he doesn't have always the most current pilot. I mean, he gets a lot of new stuff. If you look at a lot of his stuff, he's creating a lot of different characters, doing a lot of
he's doing styles. A lot original.
And he's created a whole stuff based on different things that really transcend just fan art. I mean, he's got the fan art. You got it's a grabber, but it's a lot of cool stuff. And then some of the stuff he's done is reimagining his old artwork with stuff like the paper is textured where you get the feel on it, stuff like that.
There's no one else doing what Terry does.
No, Terry's is very unique. So you definitely check out Terry Huddleston's shows and that. But speaking of shows, I was at Indiana Comic-Con last weekend, had a great time. Saw some fans, we sold some books.
That's such a great show.
And really enjoyed being down there. Like going to Indianapolis. There's a couple of great restaurants we like to go to. And we got a chance to hang out with Vinny and Lisa for T-24, wearing one of their shirts today.
Yep.
And very comfy shirts. They got some new ones too, which are cool. They have a new, just for this year only, a Hut Fett 84 kind of political shirt done in the colors of Boba Fett. So I got that one, and then Futurama. Futurama is another new one they did, which I'll be wearing that at Motor City one of the days because Katie Seagal will be there from Futurama and Married with Children. So, hey, Kevin.
Yeah, we'll give a shout out there. Yeah. And if you want to go to their website, it's t-24.com. And they have all of their items there. And what's nice, this is actually their designs too.
Yeah, they're Lisa's the designer on that.
Yep.
And then you can click for their convention schedule. Now, there's some shows that Vinny and Lisa are at, and then some shows they have another team that takes their stuff around because they have expanded some of their shows. But they will be at the Motor City Comic-Con. We'll see them there. Now I'll be doing the Cincinnati Comic Expo in October, and Vinny and Lisa won't be there, but their other team will be there. So
there's the one you were talking about.
Yeah, that's a pretty fun one.
Hot Fett 84 by any method necessary.
Yes. And then there's go up just a couple of bit more and go, and there's the Futurama, and then they have a new Clock and Back to the
Oh,
Future.
Back to the Future. Yeah.
Yep. Now the price difference there, 25 to 63. That's from T-shirts to hoodies.
Yep.
And the hoodies are really nice. They're comfortable. They're soft. They're actually they're warm enough, but they're not heavy.
This shows the designs that they have for hoodies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, and they use very quality fabrics and their print. They do their printing themselves too.
Actually, I think they're outsourcing a little bit of that now, but they work in conjunction with the printer.
Yeah. So, great American company, great products, quality products. Their stuff lasts.
Yep. Good decals, pens, things like that. So definitely check them out.
Go check them out.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
So we'll be talking about a little Ghostbusters. You got a chance to see Ghostbusters last night?
I did. Saw Ghostbusters. I so far I've watched half of Roadhouse also.
Okay.
So we're going to be talking Roadhouse. So I have seen half of it. They really need to label the second half as starring Conor McGregor's butt.
I told you.
You told me, and I'm just like, oh my god. So we'll get into that a little bit later. And what other things were we covering?
Well, I'd also watched. I'll talk real quick. I watched Ricky Staniski.
Oh, that's right.
John Cena
and Zac Efron, right?
Yeah, Zac Efron was. Again, it's one of those comedies again that just. I think that it starts off okay, and really just I feel like it stalled midway. I was just not feeling it as much anymore. I felt like it was they were just trying too hard to be funny at that point.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the problem lies in a lot of these comedies anymore is they're just trying too hard to be funny. And it's like, okay, you're not being funny anymore. You're just being ridiculous.
Right. It's more like shock jocks.
And then it's then they want to turn around and make it a this ending at the end of it was kind of like, okay, they come around, he admits he's an actor, he's not this guy, and everything these people did, and it's like, and then everybody forgives him for lying for 30 years, and of course this guy, is just happy to have friends now, and was just a loser. You look at him and go, he's a pretty big buff guy. I don't see him being a loser.
Right.
And that was the thing. It was just like, just not feeling it, in a lot of that way. So, but yeah, it's on, both of them are on Prime, for Roadhouse and Ricky Staniski. That's how I found the Ricky Staniski thing. Let me pull this up here. This is just the poster art and Zac Efron, John Cena. And I think that what everything Cena's doing now, comedy wise, is a lot of this, over the top, adultish, R-rated comedy that's just not funny enough.
It's forced. It's just being
and trust me, there was a bit there when you see the guy's character as what he is. He's an Atlantic City performer, and he dresses up as known rock stars, but sings about masturbation. And some of it was quite funny, actually. I mean, it sounds worse, but it was funny. But at the same time, it's like going from there, everything he's doing, everything he's talking about, it just felt like just the same rolling of the jokes that were not funny anymore.
Right. And I don't understand why. Like, it was funny when Cena first did it. He was like in the Amy Schumer movie there, Trainwreck. His character was funny because it was just so unexpected. And then also, what's the one where he was in the movie theater and he's given like the guy is like calling him Mark Wahlberg. He's like, no, I look like I ate Mark Wahlberg or something.
No, I'm not sure.
And he was doing some rude comments back and forth with the other guy. Anyways, it was funny because it was different. But now it just seems like every single thing they put John Cena in, it's this crude type of humor just over and over and over again. And I don't think he needs to do that.
Yeah, it's like he does the Suicide Squad, plays the Patriot, then they do the show The Patriot, and he's, very rude, over the top, X-rated, talk stuff like that. I think that
Peacemaker,
yes,
that's it.
And that, but it's like you go back and look at some of the stuff. He's done some movies like The Marine. It wasn't bad. It was decent.
Mm-hmm.
But he did like Vacation Friends, and then he did Vacation Friends 2. I was like, well, I could barely get through Vacation Friends, just because it was just too much. I mean, it's. Right. I think it's time too. I think these movies are they like to be these 2-hour comedies when realistically they should be 90 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think they try to put too much into it, and that's why they keep playing the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, he was actually good in Daddy's Home too, but he had a smaller role. He showed up towards the end. I didn't care for the first Daddy's Home,
but he also wasn't doing crude humor in Daddy's Home.
No,
he was good in there.
Yeah. So, and it's just a bunch of other stuff. I'm just like, I think he's, in some ways, The Rock is doing too much of The Rock, but at the same time, The Rock's went to straight action where John Cena's gone to being vulgar, gross out humor, and it's not most of the time funny.
Yeah.
So, but that's my take on it, and I'm sticking to it.
There you go. Yeah, I feel like part of the problem, and I think it's becoming pretty widespread throughout all movies and TV series, is I think the real problem is the writing, and I don't think they're promoting people through the ranks anymore based upon writing good stories. They're getting pushed for different reasons, and it's people who are trying to, whatever the goal of the story is, they're like pushing that, but they don't know how to structure a good story arc to deliver you there. So it just ends up being something where you don't care because they don't develop the characters properly. You just don't care about the characters while you're watching it. The endings, I feel, and like I watched Leave the World Behind. I watched on that was either Prime or Netflix.
I think it's Netflix. Yeah,
it is Netflix. Yes, it is Netflix. But like that one, actually, I enjoyed 2/3 of the movie, but then the ending is just like out of nowhere. It's like, what are they doing here? And it felt like they kind of lost their way, and it felt like they just wanted to put an ending no one was expecting. Well,
and the interesting is, and just recently compare is, I looked it up now. It's based on a novel that came out in 2020. So when the movie came out in 2023, so it's like, okay, so this came out in 2020 as a novel, and then the movie, did they change the ending from the novel, or was the novel just a bad ending? So I mean, that'd be something to look into, because I mean, and that happens. There are some movies I like to this day, and I read the novels that sucked afterwards. One is Kevin Costner's The Postman. I always liked that movie. It's I thought it was a neat post-apocalyptic take on stuff, and then I read the original novel, and the original novel almost had nothing to do with the movie. It's like they took the premise and they rewrote the whole thing.
Yeah, they buy the rights, and but it's like, why did you even bother buying the rights for this if you didn't even want it to be the same story?
Because they had an idea, and some things matched. And I've seen that before, where they have a script, and then also there's a novel out. It's like, we should buy that novel. Why? Well, it's close enough in idea, not execution, to it. So they would do that just by having the rights. Then they can do what they want with it.
Plus, they're hoping they're buying the fan base. They're hoping the fan base will translate over.
Not always. Like this movie here, that Leave the World Behind, the book I'd never heard of before. I don't think there was a fan base.
No, I'm not saying always, but no, I do think sometimes that's part of it.
Oh, no. If there's a fan base, then they do that. They try to bring them in. But when there's a movie that's based on the novel that was not necessarily a critical hit, but they like the idea. It was like that with Starship Troopers. It was based on a novel, not Starship Troopers, something else, that had a similar thing with dealing with bugs in space and stuff like that. But it was a completely different story than what they ended up doing. They just bought the rights to it, mostly so that way they can't say they stole an idea, copied an idea, things like that. It's all a legal thing just to control the after effects, stuff like that. So,
and sometimes they buy it not because they wanted to make it that movie, but they just wanted to prevent another studio from buying it.
Well, and that's done too. And there's times that there's been stuff that they put in turnaround, which means it's not going anywhere. They have the rights to it. It's going to sit there forever, and nobody's going to make it.
And they feel it's a competing product to something else they have, and they don't want another studio to be able to make it.
Right. And that happens actually quite a bit, which, to the writers, stuff like that, if they're getting a nice little paycheck, they don't care.
So, well, but there's a lot of creators, though. If you sell your product, just remember you don't own it anymore. And so
you've got to have
those rights.
You got to have in your agreements to either the ability to continue to create within that universe in that certain way, or it reverts back to you after a certain time.
Right. Which that falls under, a lot of people are like, why do they always make remakes and reboots? Well, a lot of times part of the ownership contract is if they don't do something within a certain period of time, the rights will revert back to the original creator. So to prevent that, like Fantastic Four, for instance, with Marvel, they did a really bad movie with no intention of ever really releasing it way back when. That was just to keep the rights going.
Yeah, and that was actually it's not a horrible movie. The story was not bad.
Right.
It was done very cheap because it was a Roger Corman film.
Right.
It's never officially released. I've seen it. It was released all over the internet one time. It's probably still out there somewhere. It used to be at all the Comic Cons and the bootleg stuff when bootlegs were really big at Comic Cons.
Yeah.
Things like that. I'm sure you can find it somewhere to watch.
Well, at the rate Marvel's going, they should buy the rights to it and release it, because they'll probably do better than most of the stuff they've been doing lately.
Yeah, it came out 30 years ago. In fact, it is on YouTube.
30 years. It's on YouTube?
Watch just a moment of it. And they finished the movie, so it's a complete movie.
Yeah.
Let's get up just a bit here. And
thank you, Reed. You're welcome, sir.
Guessing that's Ben Grimm.
Yep.
Although traveling at or near the speed of light,
and you recognize that guy from Police Academy. He was Monkey Brewster's adopted father. And
oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, and then there's, I mean, you get like the whole story. They got a good origin in here. They take on. I mean,
show the thing. I want to see the thing. Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
Look at him. Even like slow motion acting. Look at that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it's definitely very cheesy. Here, I'll stop sharing. I mean, it's definitely very cheesy. It's not horrible. Story-wise, it kind of went pretty much right from the comics. It gave the basic origin. Gave things like, the thing was just, he's a rock thing, and people were not, they're like, oh my God, it's an alien type thing. And which back in the 60s would have been more prevalent than even in the 90s. But
if I remember right, I've read, I want to say this is accurate, interviews with those actors, and they said at the time nobody knew this was just going to be shelved. So they really for them, they were really taking this serious, and they were really putting all their effort into this. And
oh yeah, they did. It was done. I mean, the thing was to retain the rights, it didn't have to be released, but it had to be completed. And that was the deal. And they held the rights on until they were able to sell them off to, I think Sony did the other Fantastic Fours. So or Fox 26 Fox, I forget, but I know the first two that got released. First one was okay. Second one, you got to see Silver Surfer. It's kind of cool, but they screwed up on Galactus.
Yeah, Galactus,
I still have not seen the Miles Teller one. I saw the trailer for that. I was like, this is garbage. I'm not watching this.
It was okay, but
see, that's all I hear. To me, that's garbage.
Best, it was okay at best. Now, in light of the recent phases of Marvel, if I went back and watched it, I'd probably like it more. Yeah. But compared to the first three phases of Marvel, it wasn't good. No. Now I'm not so sure about the next one. I mean,
well, we'll see. I mean, who they announced is fine. We'll see what I always wait till I see at least a trailer to make a final decision. But it's like Madam Web. I saw the trailer, like, nope.
You can tell a lot from trailers, just like Acolyte. Yep. We talked about it last week. I'm not going to get into it this week, but all I'll say is our worries have been pretty much confirmed through all the interviews that are being done by the director and actors. Yeah. So, and how did we come to that conclusion? Based on the trailer. You can tell a lot through trailers.
Yeah. So wait, see, at least that one is it's going to be released on Disney, and I have it. It doesn't cost me anything, so I can watch it if I want to. But if it's like some of the other stuff I've stopped watching, it's like I'll watch a couple and like, okay, this sucks, so I can watch it. Yeah, Bad Batch, still loving it. And
and Bad Batch has been phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't talk about this week's, but this week's got the point where I figured it would. And that, but I'm like with it. I mean, everything it's building up is they're really just getting into the intrigue of everything going on. In some ways, you could say it's kind of moving slow, but at the same time, it's because there's so much story they want to get in. I don't feel so. When the episode's done, I'm like, oh, it's done. I want to see more, you know. So at least it's got me wanting to see more every week. So.
Every week, yeah. It's like, you know, it gets done. I'm like, already? These need to be 2-hour long episodes.
Yeah, I watched this morning, so it was like, oh man, it was just getting to a point where I thought we'd get some more, and they got to tease us and cut it off.
Well, what's an episode? 25 minutes?
25 to 30 minutes, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're keeping it very
definitely not enough.
A little bit more than what would be released on network TV, but you know, not much more. They're not going like 45 minutes to an hour. It's not like the live action series, which are more treated for an hour long show.
Yeah.
So,
very good.
But very good on that. And then, like I said, I watched Roadhouse. Oh, so Roadhouse, and there's Dalton on the left, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
I will say he got ripped for the role.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I watched a little past the halfway mark. So I'm where Conor McGregor has probably been in it for about 10, 15 minutes. Mm-hmm. The first half of the movie before Conor gets in it, I was really enjoying. A+. I mean, it was really good. It was plausible and everything. But Conor's portrayal is just so cartoonish, and it was stupid.
Yeah. The biggest problem I've had with this I watched the whole thing, and I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it for what it was as a Roadhouse movie, where they are calling him Dalton, and they're introducing the same theme of he's got to come and clean up this bar. This time it's a guy in Key West. I like the fact his backstory was the UFC. Okay, we got a fighting. I mean, that's big. So yeah, it's great to tie in the fighting aspects because there's a lot of that in this. I felt like the main character of Dalton is just they made him not a likable Dalton. For the most part, it's like, do you really care about this guy? He's already told you he wants to. He basically shows you he wants to kill himself. He's you know, you find out he's depressed because he did kill someone in the ring, but he did it on his own because he has rage, can't control, which he brings out which you haven't even seen yet. Towards the end, he brings it out, right. and doesn't. It's like, okay, you know, the original one, you know, he was had a philosophical side to him.
Yeah.
And when he went into the bar where this one doesn't, he went into the bar and he taught these guys how to be. The only thing he teaches the one guy is to step back when he throws a knife at him.
I know.
That's the only thing.
He's a bouncer.
Yeah.
It's like he's an effective bouncer off one move.
You know, when they went in, the original one, he goes in, he's like, we're going to rehab the bar. They want to make a successful bar. This one here, he's just going in and all they're doing is just kicking the crap out of everybody.
Oh, he did have one other lesson, lift with the knees.
Oh yeah, lift with the knees.
Lift with the knees. And like they repeat it a couple times. It's like,
yeah. And then the whole thing with the main bad guy, I'm like going, okay, this was a little too cliche-ish and what they're going on. And it's one of the keys down in the Florida Keys that they're on. And then you find out, well, everybody's already sold out to him and I'm the only holdout. I didn't look like that with the bookstore. I'm sorry, but everything. There's so many things that I felt that they didn't make a character that you really wanted to care about. They don't have to emulate the exact way Patrick Swayze did it, but you would feel that I felt like if they had started off showing what happened and said 5 years later he's working at a bar as a cooler and then gets recruited, it would have made more sense than her going to recruit one guy, sees him walk in, sit down, take his hoodie off. The guy's like, nope, not fighting him. He kills people and walks out and he just collects his money. And it's a scam and everything he does is just a scam. And it's like, do you really care about this person? I mean, I think it just falls in too much of, oh, you know, yeah, he's a bad guy, so we have to like the bad guys more.
Yeah.
I like the fighting in this. I thought they did some great choreography. I like the Conor McGregor character because by the time I got to him, I was like, okay, he's not the same guy they brought in from the first movie where he was some guy in prison talking about he used to, you know, bang guys like him in prison. And he just comes in. He's like, yeah, I got a job to do. My job is to kick your butt, take care of this place and take care of that guy, which is the bad guy. And
here's the problem with Conor, though. Even in real life, he's annoying. He's cartoonish in real life. Yes. He's trying to be a WWE character in UFC. So he brings this persona and overtalks and stuff. This is a movie. I don't need a real UFC guy as the opponent. Make it somebody who would make Jake Gyllenhaal appear to be an underdog. Somebody who you look at and be like, oh, crap, I'm afraid of that guy. This guy, the way Conor walks around the whole movie, it's like some high school kid who lifted a little bit of weights and now he's walking around trying to look all puffed up to be intimidating.
Yeah,
I mean, he walks like this everywhere, with his pants off.
Yeah. Well, and they did show his butt a lot. And
yeah,
I mean, the initial part I thought was funny. I found
it was
funny,
but it didn't fit the theme of the whole movie.
Well, but the thing was, what was the real theme of the whole movie? There wasn't one.
Well,
it was just you got a guy who you really don't care about coming in to save a bar that you really have no reason to care about it, because the thing is, like, there's no other, like, in the original one, think about this. He goes and hits the hardware store. That's Red. Red's a solid guy. He's a stand-up citizen. And then he finds out about, the Wesley character in the original one is basically, hey, you're going to pay us protection money is what they're doing. It's a mob thing in a small town. And then the guy's bringing in, like, I'm bringing in J.C. Penney's and I'm bringing in this. And it was back, of course, in 1889. So it's a lot different than now for that. But if it had been a few people like that where he gets to know, he shows up and it's like, yeah, I saw some houseboat down there. Oh, that happens to be my houseboat. You can stay there. Coincidence after coincidence of easy note. I just felt like just to set up. And it's like, and then the owner of the bar, you meet her, but you don't get to know her. I mean, you find out a couple of things. Well, my uncle owned it, so now I'm the whole. It's all just happenstance stuff that didn't really matter.
Yes.
And
they don't develop the characters.
Yeah. And then when he does get his butt kicked, because you haven't got to this part yet, because Jake Schultz, he's leaving town, and the only reason he stays is because of we gotta block somebody. I'll let you take care of it. Yeah, he's just hitting all our stuffs. It's. He stops because at the beginning of him getting onto the keys, he stops and there's a bookstore next to the Double Deuce Cafe. That's how they tied in the original one by having Double Deuce there. And this little girl with a book gives him a book about this tree that's growing on the highway, which I didn't even notice at first. They make a point to show it to you at the end of the movie as he's leaving town. But the only reason he stopped leaving town, because that's where the Greyhound station is from his book, is because they went and burned down the bookstore. None of it made any sense. It's like there's a liquor store next door, the bookstore, all this stuff. Why are you burning this down? The guy they set up nothing on why this guy was, because they didn't deal with him at all with the bad guys much at all. So it was all about just trying to show all these little fights. I felt like it was a Roadhouse fan film, and someone says, "I want to tie you."
That's how it felt. It did feel that way. I really enjoyed the first half still, but I agree, like with the character development, the Jake Gyllenhaal character, for instance. I mean, there's a scene where he gets stabbed, and like he even keeps his cool through that, where he's like, "Did you make the right choice? Are you sure you want to do that?" And then he gets stabbed, and and then the guy runs away, and then he's like, "Oh well, no big deal. It's like, okay, come on, really? I think somebody who's struggling with anger management issues would not be so zen. I mean,
well, that's part of the problem is they tried to make him seem like he was zen, but he wasn't. And that's where
they overdid.
Original Dalton had, when he got stabbed, which was at the bar, he has his medical records and goes to the hospital and gets sewed up. He takes the pain, where this one here goes, "No, I'll sew myself up. I want to take the pain." That was manly, not letting the doctor look at him after the fact when he's still bleeding again.
Well, and then when he goes to the doctor, so he beats up these guys, and it's funny. He beats them all up, and then he takes them to the hospital.
That part I thought was funny. I was like,
that was funny. Yeah. But what annoyed me was the doctor. Then the doctor's like, "Well, thanks a lot for taking up space in my hospital for people who need it." It's like, what? Like, you don't even care. And these guys are known to be troublemakers in the city.
She is the love interest, of course.
But I didn't feel like they did a good job of making that.
No, and that's all. Again, they dropped the ball there, and I think that I like the fact that he drove him there, and she could have said something. She goes, "Well, what am I supposed to do? They wanted to. I told them not to, doing my thing, and they wanted to, so I didn't kill them. They're here."
They're here, yeah.
And I did like the one kid that was in the gang. He's got his arm broke. He's the same way through the whole thing, and he's kind of like, "Oh, hey Dalton," he reminded me of what's her name from Deadpool, the friend of Warhead. I was like, "Hey, hi Deadpool, hi Suki."
But that's where like that little gang of guys, I felt fit the world that they were creating, and it was plausible. Once Connor got in, he was so cartoonish compared to the rest of the characters.
Right.
It just didn't fit for me. Now, I intend on finishing it. I just ran out of time.
Yeah,
because we went to Ghostbusters.
Finish it, and then you can see the rest of it. And like I
said, I want to see the rest of it, but
it's got some good scenes at the end. Like I said, there's a lot of good action sequences, and I like some of the fight stuff. It's definitely over the top. Yeah. You know, there's a big fight between Gyllenhaal and Connor's character towards the end. That's the big fight. How they deal with the bad guys is in there too. But again, the whole thing is, and then you've already seen them introduce the father character. Well, we never see the father. We find out what he had done with the sheriff, and the sheriff is the doctor's dad. Again, it was all just bouncing around happenstance everywhere. So it's just not a cohesive story that I think that they screwed up on this one more on character development than just story.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think they could have done better job casting a different person than McGregor. Somebody just who is physically imposing to really kind of strike that ominous feeling of somebody who enters the room and is like, oh crap, don't mess with that guy. Connor, even in real life, even though I know he would kick my ass, he's not imposing. He's goofy.
Yeah.
Well,
I think the biggest problem they did with him was, again, character development.
Yeah. They were relying solely on his UFC record in real life.
Right.
To create the character. And
that was part of the problem there, because if they, at least in the original one, when they introduced this new guy, he was just there. He didn't come storming in half naked. Or when we do see him on the island, he's driving a Lamborghini and just tearing shit up. You know, it's stuff like that. But the big thing is, like, if he got introduced by the bad guy, that's how he was introduced in the first one. Now the bad guy is he's just a tool. I mean, he just happens to have fell into everything because his dad got thrown in jail. So now he's the big tough guy, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And it's like, no, give us a reason to believe everything they're doing as bad guys. And you really watch it going, no, I don't believe it. I believe you guys would have been taken a long time ago.
Right.
Whoever you're supposedly wanting to work with or work with behind the scenes that we never see, they would have killed you a long time ago.
Well, and that was the other problem too. The other bad guy, the son of the father there, the bad guy father there, it's like you get introduced to him, and he wants to be shaved with a straight edge razor on the bow of the boat on choppy waters. And he's like, it's like, what?
I'm watching that going, really? And then he goes up and beats the captain up for like it's his fault. It's like, you're a moron.
Yeah.
I mean, realistically, I was shocked that someone else didn't kill him early on.
It's sloppy writing. They don't know how to character develop. They don't know how to write a villain. So they just came up with these stupid, insane tropes to throw in on the person.
Yeah,
say,
and the whole thing with Conor McGregor, the thing with Conor McGregor, I didn't mind a lot of what he was, but again, it only fits really in this whole thing because of the fact that everybody else is just ridiculous in terms of not believable on anything. So why not throw in an unbelievable heavy? But at the same time, it's with him, we meet Conor McGregor. He's banging some chick, and then so he's naked. So when he leaves, oh yeah, I got a job, got to go, and he's just walking through. And he's in Italy, walking through town naked, and sees this guy. Yeah, this was good. He takes his coat, and puts it on,
and then he burns like the whole
village
down. Everything down, and what, the cops just don't go after him. He just
and then he shows up, and it's like he's just terrorizing everything and stuff like that, and he's there. And I think it would have been better if he had been brought in by the actual bad guy, not the bad guy's dad, to try to fix what his son screwed up. It's like, no, you didn't set up anything really screwed. It was all screwed up from the get go, and there's nothing you can do about it. See that guy, Conor McGregor should have showed up to take out the bad guy on the boat. And then take over the empire and go from there. But, so I tell people, I'll tell you this: if it's on Prime, watch it once, and then
it's fun for mindless entertainment.
And that's about what it is.
It's not going to be this huge
but it's not,
thing.
Where I got it? I got it right here. I turned it off before. See, I've bought it in special editions of Roadhouse with Swayze. Why? Because it's a good movie. I mean, there's really no memorable lines. I mean, at least in the original one, there's a lot of them. I mean, and there's the mentor. You don't have no mentor for him walking in. They should have had a mentor. Sam Elliott walks in. He's like, so this is a double douche.
Yeah, Sam Elliott was great in the original. He's great.
They had a great house band. One of the last bands they showed I liked the music they were playing. I like that stuff. As they're tearing it up around them, but they didn't tear up the band. I'm like, they should have had a good house band like that was there as a character instead of changing bands left and right.
Yeah.
So, but that was that. So, go ahead.
One last thing before we get to both Ghostbusters. I just saw a scene. I never heard of this, so it's on my to watch list now. I want to see if you saw it. Did you happen to see Finest Kind on Paramount Plus with Tommy Lee Jones?
I did not.
I saw this little clip and it looked amazing, and I never heard of it. Tommy Lee Jones is in it. The girl who plays Wednesday.
I'm gonna have to watch this because Ben Foster's in it. He's fantastic. Jenna Ortega, Wednesday.
Yeah, it looks very interesting from the little clip I saw.
This is going on my watch list, so I'm gonna have to watch this. So. I just haven't seen it notice it pop up, so I'll definitely have to check this out.
It says it's Paramount Plus original movie, so I assume it's still on there. It came out last year, it looks like.
Yeah, it says right now, so online here. So
yeah, so I think I'm going to try to watch that this week coming up here. It looked good to me.
Yeah, I'll get that in too. We'll cover that for you guys next week.
Yeah, so there's a little something I'll throw out there. Just before this morning, I was, you scroll through and there was this little clip with Tommy Lee Jones. I'm like, oh, what's this? And I'm like, wow, that was a powerful scene. Tommy Lee Jones is such a great actor.
Well, I think he's great. Ben Foster's a fantastic actor and does really good in a lot of these type of roles, look a little heavier, grittier roles. One of the best things you see him in is the remake they did of 3:10 to Yuma. Came out probably like 15 or almost 20 years ago. And that was really good. That had Christian Bale in it. Yeah. So if you've never seen that one, definitely watch 3:10 to Yuma.
Nice.
And that. So Scott and I separately went and saw Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. And I really liked it. I thought it was a great way to keep going into this world of the Ghostbusters. And they are now starting to show how they can expand it beyond what we see.
They're doing a really good job of growing the franchise, I feel, and handing it off to the next generation.
Yes. And the thing was, too, is even though we have the Spanglers back, that's the family, we still have the current, alive Ghostbusters are all still in there. And they all had good roles. And I got to tell you, my favorite thing seeing, I knew it was going to happen because I saw it in the trailers and other stuff, was seeing Janine actually put on the Ghostbusters gear, Annie Potts.
Yep.
She had the arm thing, which was pretty cool.
Also known as Sheldon's grandmother.
Yep. Meemaw is Meemaw. And that. On the show Sheldon, but I really enjoy it. It's I pulled up the numbers when Afterlife came out in November 21. It did an opening of just under 45 million, gross 129 million domestic, 204 worldwide. For this one here right now, it came out at 47 million this past weekend, just under 17 million international, so like almost 64 and a half worldwide right now. Okay. Which some will say is not as good and as big, but of course, in this day and age now, the movies are not pulling in a consistent thing.
Yeah.
I personally feel it's something I wouldn't mind seeing again in the theater. I enjoy it.
I think it's a great opening for the current movie market.
Yes.
As far as the movie itself goes, I really enjoyed it. I felt it was a little more serious than past Ghostbusters.
They did go a little darker with it, yes.
Yeah, it was a little darker. So if you have small children, you may want, I don't know if you want to pre-screen it before you bring them. I will say this too. Jill, me, and my mother went to see it. All three of us really enjoyed it a lot. But in the trailers, there was this, I don't know if they showed this trailer in yours. It was like a horror movie with tarot cards.
Yes, I saw that.
It was an intense trailer, and those kids were like crying in our theater.
Yeah, I had a couple kids there. I started going, "Mommy, what's that?"
Yeah, you hear the moms like, "Don't look, don't look." Like it was an intense trailer, and Jill's like, "I don't think they should show that for a Ghostbuster film." But so if your kids are under 10, 8, it depends on your kid.
Yeah,
you might want to pre-screen this because it is a darker feel, I feel, than the other Ghostbusters. But I loved it.
I did too, and I think the change is different. If you look at Ghostbusters Afterlife and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire, it's not direct sequels off the movies, which I mean they are off the movies, but as their own thing. And then go back and look at Ghostbusters 2. I felt with Ghostbusters 2, and I felt this back in 1989. I enjoyed it. I liked it. Mm-hmm. But it felt they went more campy, Where here we started off with a little more serious tone in the afterlife, dealing with the death of Spangler. Of course, having a real life death involved with that. How they set up the story, revisiting the ghost we knew as the big bad, and dealing with everything that way, so we can just draw everything back in, and then set up, like I said, the new Ghostbusters. Where this one here's continue that theme, and it's definitely a lot darker. We did get to see Slimer in this one, which was a nice change, and Slimer's around, and I think they're kind of hinting at they might go to the direction of Slimer could be like the mascot, like in the cartoon, the real Ghostbusters. Not so much. I mean, he's just kind of there. He's basically just eating junk food and hanging out in the attic. But definitely going a little bit darker tone with the type of ghost they were dealing with, what the ghost was trying to do. The manipulation of a full apparition ghost that could actually talk, to people, which was different than we've seen before.
I did like a couple cameos. We had the original library ghost make an appearance.
Yep, and did the scary thing at Dan Aykroyd.
He recognized her. He kind of stopped and looked. It was the same thing. So she was still there. Slimer. You had the little Stay Puft Marshmallow guys everywhere.
Which I found interesting because they got all blown up at the end of the last movie. So whatever they did, they brought them back. And
then the mayor.
Yes, the mayor, Peck, which was funny because when you see at the end, of course, he's gonna take down the Ghostbusters. It gets everything flipped on real quick. I love somebody else because you're still a dickless.
Yeah. They so if you don't remember, was he the mayor at the time also?
No, he was the EPA guy.
That's it. Yeah. And he was trying to get the Ghostbusters shut down, and he successfully got them shut down when they turned off the containment unit. A lot of things happened.
Which the main girl called him out on.
Yep.
And said, well, you did that, and here's what happened. And know.
So I liked how they worked his character into the storyline too. And then Annie Potts was great coming back. So that was nice seeing her and all of them.
And we got to see more than like Annie Potts. We really only saw in the credits last time. Now she popped in a couple times. I love that we got to see her in action a little bit. Got a little more of Ernie Hudson, as Zeddemore, and then of course, Bill
Murray,
in that. And Ray was just was a major character in this. I mean, they really tied everything through his occult store, and I liked how they did that. I liked that brought stuff in, and they were able to deal with this stuff.
They also did. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
They also did a great job of kind of exploring the retirement side of things too. They didn't go deep in it, but you see how retirement age is affecting the different characters, and where like Ernie Hudson has a conversation with Ray there, and Dan Aykroyd there, where it's like, you're in your golden years, you shouldn't be doing this. He's like, but this is what I want to do in my golden years, and so there are different approaches to that. And we see Bill Murray's character. I love when he comes back. But they did a good job of incorporating all of them into the different elements without them being forced in.
Right. And I'm still trying to figure out. He was finding this. I've seen a lot, but Kamal Najini, it's like he pops up in everything anymore.
And he's always the same character. He's some kind of underestimated kind of loser guy who has some untapped talent from within that comes out later on. Like he was that way in the Kenobi. He was a fraud of a Jedi, and then he gets uncovered, but then he has a heart and he wants to help the Jedi.
Right.
And here he was kind of a fraudster gamer from just trying to sell his grandma's stuff off.
And he was one of the Eternals.
Stuff
and
like in that one he was using his abilities to be an actor in Bollywood. He didn't really care about being a superhero, but then he turns out to be a great superhero. So it always seems to be this theme with all the characters he does.
Right. So
but it worked in here. I enjoyed him in here.
Yeah, he was fine. It worked. It was really good. I thought that in a lot of ways he was kind of the they were trying to make him more the Rick Moranis type, but not successful. Everything else. So.
I was hoping to see Rick Moranis when they brought out that the pasta dish thing to
put
when I saw that come out, I'm like, oh, Are we going to see Rick Moranis? And it wasn't.
See, I'd love to see them do. I assume they're going to do a third one because they're really trying to push their Ghost Core, which is their production company.
Yep.
Doing more of these ghosts. I think they do well enough that they can definitely keep doing more movies. But they really set up with the fact that with Ernie Hudson's character set up a separate location, and they have
newer equipment.
Yeah, newer equipment. They're researching the ghosts. They're learning about them. So I think that was and then of course at the end when he says, we'll be there for. I think that was truly the setup for the Ghostbusters franchise idea they've had for years to continue on the movies in different ways.
Yeah, they're modernizing the equipment, updating it. So I wonder in the next one, because one of the things they hinted at throughout the movie is Ecto-1 is getting older. Like it's not doing as well.
Yeah.
And so like, are we going to see a new Ecto-1 come the next movie?
Yeah. And then of course we did see the Ecto-C, which is the motorcycle.
Yeah. Because the Ghostbuster groups really need a new Ecto-1 because their cars are getting pretty old.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I can see them now that they basically have saved the world again. It's now big national news. They realize ghosts are everywhere. Like I said, the ghosts have now gone everywhere with this new.
Yep, they're all released.
Bad.
They got to get.
So now you got to start capturing them again and doing things. So I could see them setting up, like Ghostbusters in different cities, and things like that, and setting up a storyline around that. Doesn't always have to be New York, as we saw with the last movie, Afterlife.
I hope they don't do that though, only because I like the concept of it. If they're going to expand with books, comic books, cartoons, but it's very easy to oversaturate the market and then water down your own storylines.
Well, and that's true. I think if they do, what I'd like to see them do is, I don't mind seeing other cities, but they need to keep it consistently a good storytelling. They don't want to do it too broad, too fast. And definitely, I mean, they've dealt with some of that stuff in the video games over the years and other stuff. But I want to see them saturate the market that way too. If they have too much coming out in different mediums, it could be too much. But if they take,
if they did a cartoon,
I think though. But if they do something like Ghostbusters, say, okay, here's where the new big bad is, and they say, but we can't be in New York. The big bad can't always be in New York. So they can move it to somewhere, but move it somewhere like different and unique. I mean, they can go international with it. They go, Ghostbusters London, and they could license Crimson Shadows and deal with themes that we set up in that.
Yeah, it's hard to do that though. I mean, they tried that with Men in Black. Yeah, and it wasn't as good. They tried even Harry Potter, shifting it over to America. It just, there's something about the feel of the original that then it's like, I don't know.
I think though the difference is when they do it, they have to tie in what they've now established.
Yes.
Which means they can't just say, here's all new people. That's where Men in Black International screwed up, it was all new people.
Yes. Yeah, and here you're seeing a good handoff to the new generation here.
Yeah. At this point here, McKenna Grace, she's in real life 17. In this role here, she's 15 going on 16. She wants to be a Ghostbuster. So realistically, this could be, them handing this off to her. Maybe she's 18 and she could be going to college or something. I mean, they could just, having some of the characters from this transfer in there is what helps. That's what helped transfer to Afterlife, by having the original Ghostbusters come in. And even in this one, they came in to help out towards the end. But this would be a way to really set up, like, hey, I'm gonna go here, and they deal with Ray. He hasn't been through the whole movie, but he's the focal point.
Correct.
Things like that. So, but we'll see. I mean, I assume there's gonna be a third movie. We could be wrong. But it's so far on track for the same as the first one, Afterlife, and see how well it does there.
They definitely set up the ending where you could easily continue this in whatever format you want.
And the scene at the end shows that certain ghosts or certain manifestations are now on the run.
So there's a mid-credit scene, so stay for that.
And between the first Afterlife and this one, we've established that those ghosts that are around that aren't violent or whatever, that just haven't fulfilled their thing, can eventually go off into the next level.
And if you're talking about the series Ghosts, they're being sucked off.
Yeah.
they've achieved their purpose and now they get sucked off.
See, that's what's funny about, that's what I love about the switching gears, guys, to CBS show Ghosts, which if you haven't watched is hilarious. Go back and rewatch it. It'll be back going the next couple weeks here, but when the ghost goes off to the afterlife, Trevor was the one that said, "Oh, they get sucked off," and it's funny because the first time they say it, and the one gal that's can now see them hears that, he basically kind of looks like, "Yeah, I know," but it's funny.
And then all the ghosts from the older time periods don't understand the joke, so then they now use that as the terminology all the time.
Yeah,
so that's how it felt on that scene to me when with the little match thing. All I could think about was ghosts.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that way even watching the last movie because I'd already seen ghosts at that point. But
I did like the inclusion of a ghost that could interact and kind of give a perspective. She's asking like, "What's it like to be a ghost?" What's the downside? What's the positive? So it created an interesting dynamic that I think they could have explored a little more, actually, as far as like her becoming friends with a ghost and her job is to hunt ghosts. Does that create a level of empathy that makes it hard to fulfill?
Right.
But
and that's the thing, that as we're going through this, I think that's something they could explore. Is that something we want to explore in a movie, or is it something we want to explore in other mediums? And that's the other thing. I mean, this could be, Ghostbusters. They could port it into other places with franchises as a Netflix style series or Paramount series, something like that, where it's like you get like 8 episodes, they have a solid story, it's one story. It's not not like Ghost here, which is up on the screen as a a sitcom, but dealing with something a little more serious, like have a point of view to kind of do it like kind of like Reacher, or one of those. So I think that could be another way to explore the Ghostbusters universe, which is I know they want to expand it out more than just the film. So
So you got Ghosts on the screen. So if you haven't seen Ghosts, they're in season 3 now.
Yes,
they're at the mid-season break. So if you want to get caught up on it, it's on Paramount Plus.
Yes, and it's been renewed for a 4th season already.
Yeah,
so I just saw that.
There is a British version out there. I believe Brett agrees with me. It's a little too dry. I don't like it as much. I tried it. So
I think if I'd seen it first, I might have been able to kind of get through it and maybe enjoy it somewhat. But after seeing this Ghost, the writing on Ghost is it's hilarious. I love the character development. That we get to learn more about their backstories, how they are throughout the whole series. Is hilarious. I mean, you've got like the Summer character. She's up here on the this part right here, and she's a hippie, died during the hippie area. Flower. I keep saying something, but Flower. And then you have the Viking. You've got the Revolutionary War general, which was an unknown. You've got the posh upscale person that was that's
Hetty.
The relative. Hetty is the relative of the main girl here, and you have a 1920s singer. You've got a Native American. You've got basically the straight guy, Pete. So and then Trevor, of course, here. Trevor's the I liken Trevor to the Futurama episode where the 80s guy gets unthawed. Even though Trevor is a 90s guy, he's a 90s not quite metrosexual, but he's the business guy. He feels like an 80s business guy, really. And he's hilarious because he knows money and all that stuff.
Trevor definitely grew up watching Saved by the Bell.
Oh, God, he's
wanting to be, what's his name?
Zach Morris, yeah.
He could have played Zach, a younger version of himself.
Oh, yeah. So, but it's such a good show. I highly recommend that. So, But yeah, Ghostbusters, go see Roadhouse. If you got Prime already, doesn't hurt to put it on. The Ricky Staniski, you might like it. I didn't as much, so I personally think it was just a little ridiculous in terms of not fun.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you have it.
Yeah, and then next week we'll talk a little more Bad Batch because we got a really cool episode this week, and then we'll kind of go from there on stuff like that. But anything else, Scott?
No, I think that covers it for this week.
All right. Hey, everybody enjoy Good Friday. Happy Easter. And
happy Easter.
See you all next week. Bye.